the technology behind it is impressive. I mean, leaving aside the sort of human damage, it's a tactical success. But more impressive is the espionage aspect. They got inside the supply chain for Hezbollah. They managed to penetrate this factory in Hungary that was making these pages under license for Apollo Gold Apollo, and they apparently planted a small amount of plastic explosives in a way that was not easy to detect, and then set it up so that it would respond to a particular text message sent by wireless transmission to detonate, which is what happened at 3:30 across Lebanon, but also into parts of Syria where Hezbollah operatives were involved. So it's technologically sophisticated, but it's perhaps more important in terms of espionage. They managed to penetrate Hezbollah's social networks, get into their supply chain, and probably did this 5 months ago, because Hassan Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah, said back in February, you've got to get off your iPhones and your internet devices. We'll use these pages, these old sort of 1990s wireless radio transmission devices. They can't geolocate you, and this is going to be safer. And somehow we assume it's Mossad, the external intelligence operation for Israel, got in and managed to, months ago, plant these devices and then detonate them yesterday.
Well, for those of us unfamiliar with how pages work these days, can you explain the technology behind them? How do they work and what are they generally used for?
It's like an old school wireless. So you turn your radio on, and there's a wireless frequency that comes on. With a pager, you get a text message rather than just listening to the audio sound. It doesn't know where you are. It can't geolocate you. You can't communicate back to the base station. So from a security point of view, that gives you lots of advantages. And Hezbollah thought this is the way to go. It's going to be much safer. We know that Israel has technology like the Pegasus spyware, can turn your phone on, its camera, its microphone, they can geolocate you. Let's walk away from that and just go back to the old school stuff. They won't be able to find us. What they didn't know is that somebody inside their network had divulged information which enabled Israel, if we assume this is Israel, to plant these devices in a way that laid this trap. So that's impressive. But the bigger question, Yvonne, really is why do this, and why do this now? I mean, it's a tactical success. It's a psychological operation, a psyops operation, but it risks provoking Hezbollah into all-out war, and that's surely strategically has got to be questioned as whether this is really a victory.
So we can expect retaliation on this and perhaps further similar attacks?
In fact, it seems designed to provoke a retaliation. Many people have been saying, and of course we can't prove this, that Prime Minister Netanyahu wants an outright confrontation with Hezbollah, figures that the IDF will come out best on this. History doesn't suggest that's the case, and many people are critical of that position. But this surely is a provocative act. Hezbollah has lost face. It's also lost confidence in its devices, in its communications, in its personnel. But it's under political pressure. It's also a political hybrid organization in Lebanon. It has to do something in response. The question is, what does it do?
How many victims or people were targeted, and who are they? Who are those killed?
It's been reported that 5 months ago there was an order placed for 5,000 of these pages, and that 3,000 were detonated yesterday afternoon at 3:30 local time. Now, many of these people may have been, literal militants, terrorists with Hezbollah, but it's a hybrid organization. So some were just employees, some were nurses and doctors and accountants and other people. We don't really know, frankly. Everyone was in civilian clothing, so it's really hard to tell who's who. These devices were not intended to be lethal. They did cause lethalities, but they weren't a knockout blow to Hezbollah. But they were indiscriminate, and that really places a big question mark over the whole operation.
Can we say for sure who was behind the attack, and was their mission accomplished?
We can't say for sure. I mean, it's almost certainly Mossad, the external intelligence operation of Israel. They're the only ones with the capacity and the motivation. Others could do this, but they wouldn't want to do it. The Iranians certainly wouldn't do it against their proxy. They've achieved a tactical success if it's Mossad in Israel. The big question is strategically, how wise is this? And that of course, goes back to everything that's happened in Israel this last 12 months.
Just finally, how are other governments in the region reacting, and also the West? How are they viewing this attack? Would they be feeling threatened by it?
America apparently had a sort of a slight heads up, but were not in the loop. They didn't know. So it's embarrassing, basically. America's been calling for the Israeli leadership to back down, to not risk confrontation with Hezbollah. the US aircraft carrier group with Theodore Roosevelt left via the Suez Canal and the Red Sea 5 days ago. So they're not there as they were for 8 months off the coast of Lebanon, ready to back Israel up if something happens. And that sends a very strong signal. So I think basically this is bad timing, bad news. No one's happy except perhaps in Israel, if indeed they're responsible. It does make them look powerful. It makes Mossad look powerful. It restores their brand. But strategically, this surely places the whole region, including Israel, in a precarious situation.
Professor Greg Barton, good to get your expert views. Thank you so much.
Good to chat, everyone. Thanks very much.